Good evening, good evening. Hopefully everybody can see and hear the show okay. I have all new hardware running through from the show. It's my PC, which I've had built. Geez, how many does it have? It's got like 8 cores it's a monster. I tried to get the best I could so that this didn't happen. I've spent a lot of time switching back, adding it on. So hopefully if everything is going okay, I won't ever have another issue with any sort of lag or anything else like that. Now I still have some issues to work out with the physical appearance of it, lighting and things, because everything's different now. I have some different applications and stuff as well. Again, always trying to improve. We are going to talk about the item specifics because I get a lot of complaints about things. They come and go. I don't mind whatever. I know there's issues. I'd rather have somebody tell me that this is happening, that's happening, instead of finding out the hard way. So I don't never mind somebody telling me, but stuff comes and goes. They'll throw something out, eBay will throw something out there, and then I don't see anybody. Looks and sounds great. Okay, thank you, Maggie's Attic. So I totally lost my train of thought. The point is that I literally lost my train of thought. It's been a really long week. For those in Patreon, let me just get this out of the way too. I know I'm bopping around a little bit. I've been running all day. I got up at 6 this morning to take care of some things. Patreon, I will have a video up tomorrow. We got some not great news this past weekend regarding a family member who has passed. She was 92, and I have taken a little more time off between that and my eyes, and everybody here has all of their vaccinations already too, so a couple folks weren't feeling very well for a few days, and anyway, so it hasn't been a great week on that aspect, on that front. Now I do have some good news coming down the road for those in Patreon, as well as probably most everybody out here. I've got some deals in the works in the background. I will have a video interview with somebody coming up very shortly, and I'll also be able to offer some folks some stuff, some freebies. Again, nothing in return. I'm not asking for anything, but there'll be some new stuff coming down the line. Patreons, you'll hear about it tomorrow. Full-fledged everything. I've got stuff pretty much in writing on some of the things we've been talking about in the past. It has been one of those weeks. I'm usually not very frazzled, but this week has been a very trying week for many things going on. Again, things will improve, and we're just going to keep on going. But life goes on, things happen, and you just roll with the punches, I guess. Business-wise, everything has been flying still. We've kind of doubled down on efforts, and this is where the topic at hand comes into play here. We got 1,400 item specifics that are going to be required. Now, anybody who knows and who's been doing this for a year or two since eBay started slamming us with these item specifics knows that pretty much everyone I've ever seen that says recommended has been forced upon us at some point. So, I mean, they're trying to push you to get it all in and fill it all up. And I know for fact that there's so many item specifics that don't even relate to the item that I have. And in, I don't know how many cases, because we've done a bunch, the item specifics, when I go to put them in, I can't choose the options that I have in there. And it doesn't have an NA, it doesn't have fill in your own for some of them. So the only way to satisfy some of the item specifics that were required is to put something that doesn't apply to your item at all. And that's kind of crazy just to think about that from the start of this. Now, this is all retroactive, mind you, as well. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, everybody should know that I did a test on this. I got a video literally talking about item specifics. We've got 28,000 items. I don't know, it fluctuates, give or take 1,000 or so on any given week or two. So we've 28,000. We had 8,000, I think it was 400 recommended item specifics that eBay recommended us to put in. over 8,000. We put in, and again, you can see screenshots, you can see in the video, you can go back and check, you can see that I had over 8,000 recommended. We've dumped them down to around 4,200. Now I did that for a month. Now it's been even longer than that. Now I got 2 months test, so it's even worse. So I did a test. We tracked the ones. Again, I've got item numbers listed in my title, so it's very easy to see patterns. It's very easy to see when things were listed, which ones I fixed and added item specifics versus which ones I didn't. And I can track those on a daily basis simply by downloading or cut and pasting off the screen and popping that into an Excel spreadsheet. And I can track auto sum columns. I can do all kinds of things in Excel, and I can track to see which ones garner sales. Sad part is the 4,200, 41, 42, 4,300 that I added the recommended item specifics got less sales, farther less sales than the ones I didn't mess with. Now, you know, it's hit and miss with some things, so you never know what's going to happen. But this is something eBay is telling everybody they need to do, and things that have been rolling out that eventually have been forced on us to do. Now, it cost me, again, everybody doesn't have the same situation I do. I'm not trying to belittle anybody at all. This is just my situation. People ask me what I deal with. I spent a couple $100 doing this. Even though they're recommended, it's worth a few $100s to investigate to see if I get some push out of something. If investing $200 to add item specifics garnered me $700 extra in immediate sales versus the other 4,200 that I didn't do, it would have been well worth it. I would have netted, you know, $400 or $500 extra out of that procedure of doing that. But that's not what happened. And it's gone on now, as I said, we did that a month or two ago. Now it's gone on for 2+ months, and there's still no difference. So I paid hours to have 4,200 item specifics put in by employees here. Somebody sat here. You know, I can't use the download and stuff because it doesn't work. I can't just add specifics in for everything. You have to literally look at each one of the items in many cases. Anybody who sells records, anybody who sells CDs sees some of the item specifics that are coming down the line. Recommended for records, recommended for CDs is for me to type in the name of the artist in the title, type in the name of the artist down in the artist item specific section, and possibly in a third section as well. So I would have to do triple the work to put in just the name of who is on the record. Now, I sell oddball records. Those are the ones that are worth selling for me. There aren't any reason for me to do all this extra work for a record that may never show up on eBay for another 3 years, or that's so few that no one's going to possibly even going to be thinking about looking for it. Most of the records that are oddball that people find that you're selling are going to sell by genre, like rockabilly. If I type in country bopper in a record in a search, I'm going to be shown a very specific type of record. eBay doesn't know what a country bopper is. I think it just says bopper on there now. I think they did at least add bopper, but you know, there's bluegrass, country bopper, and rockabilly, all like can converge and pass into one like almost genre at a time, and eBay misses all of those little bits of aspects of it. It's not even so much the performer all the time. So I'm going to have to, if I'm going to continue to list or do any more listings, I've got hundreds of thousands of records, which at this point, we're deciding this weekend if we'll list any more on eBay on records at all. I may never list another record, CD, or any of that on eBay because it just won't be worth my time. I can go to Discogs and not even take a picture of it and just type in a condition and a price pretty much in my account, and I have a listing. You already see what it is. You don't need a listing, an image for things like that. And everything's there. I don't have to type in anything. It has all the sound, the tracks, and things like that. Now, if it's like an oddball, really, really oddball 45 or something like that, I may have to type in a few things. I may. But it's not even essential. Most Discogs is like the master database for all record knowledge on the internet as far as I'm concerned. That is where everything dwells for who does what on what. eBay is missing the ball. They're forcing people to do 3 times the work. And with that too, if I write in the title in my condition box, which you're supposed to do, the condition of a record, I'm also supposed to now go, I'll have to list it in the title, I'll have to list it in the description box, and now I'm going to also have to list it in a item specific, which is recommended. But the only problem with that, again, eBay isn't using any record grading standard that a true record collector is ever going to use. You've got gold mine standard. We're talking about records, but we'll talk about other things too. I'm just using this as a perfect example of why this is just insane to require this. It's going above and beyond any need that was ever going to be there. It makes no sense. I am giving up hundreds of dollars of labor, of hours, of time to supply eBay with information. And I'm not getting any, in fact, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm getting less than anything out of it. Again, I'm scientific. I got to see some sort of data to say that something works or something doesn't work. I don't use conjecture because it doesn't, it won't do good for my bottom line. If you want to make money, you got to make sure it's going to work. You don't just start randomly doing stuff and hope it works. So we test things. If I'm testing 8,400 listings is a pretty darn good amount of testings in the same similar categories, niches. So you can do, a bunch of tests and see where you float at. What happens to the results? What happens with me investing a super big amount of time, a super big amount of money into doing something? If it was a single person out there, any one of you happened to have a ton of listings and you had to add in 4,200 item specifics to your listings, how long do you think that would take you, even with their downloads? Because you can't just, anybody who's seen the downloads, you can't just sit there and pick one, pick another. It's a long spreadsheet. There's a lot of stuff that bops around. You got to look at individuals. And if you didn't do it that way, you'd have to download little tiny groups and be doing hundreds and hundreds of little downloads to do that. You're going to lose a whole week's worth of your life putting in item specifics if you're one person with 4,000, whatever it is, thousands of these to do. So, at some point, it's not worth my labor to worry about this. And I'll say this because what's happening is I'll put some in. A couple days later, they'll have changed, and then all of that labor that I invested into it is now gone. I noticed Nancy is in here. I'll do some names and stuff. I want to get to the topic because I don't either. eBay doesn't care. They're totally clueless, which I do think they are clueless on a lot of things. Again, opinion. Or they're getting something out of this. That's the only options there can be. It makes no sense. Again, we're going back to the basics here and what eBay should want to have more people coming onto the site. They should want it to be easier to put stuff on the site. If I list a record on Amazon, I don't have to do any of this. And we're talking Amazon. Amazon is a monster compared to eBay, and I don't have to do any of this. So I can instantly pop a record up with 2 photos, typing in far less any day of the week and only typing it in once, anywhere. I only have to type everything in once. Discogs, I type in some basic information in my records up there. Even Etsy is so much far easier. Every other site out there is easier than eBay, in my opinion. And I've done them all. I know eBay is far improved. It used to be 5 times harder than it is now to list anything on eBay. But that's not the world we're living in now. We're looking at eBay should want to improve it so it's quicker, so it's easier. I've been talking to Mark, which is the CEO of HIP. He runs the entire HIP platform, HIP postcards, HIP stamps, HIP comic books. To list a comic book on his platform, you just scan it with your phone, and it instantly does everything else. It gives you the first appearances. It gives you all the basic information, the publisher, everything. Does it with all kinds of other stuff that they have on there. With eBay, you got to type in the title of the comic book. You got to pick a section that it goes into. You've got to pick the main character in the comic book as well. You've probably got to add somewhere else that same main character in another item specific as well. So if it's Superman comic, you got to put that Superman's in a Superman comic in the Superman category as well as putting it in the title. Now, I'm sorry, but that's just they've complicated to the point where almost every single day, I've got more than 5 people tell me they're done with it. This is ridiculous. I think eBay's awash with all these new people, and they don't realize that new people don't always stay around. they're again short-sighted, as they always have been, in my opinion. Totally not looking at the big picture. Should have never invested $5.1 billion back into stocks. They should be fixing and doing stuff for this. None of us gain a single thing if eBay doesn't succeed, if this is our source of revenue. I know eBay has, by their own actions, lowered my percentage of revenue I get from them under the halfway mark. I would rather have just one site that does phenomenal if I could trust them and everything else, and I don't have to worry about losing sales on other platforms, because it's easier all the way around. If you've ever done taxes for the amount of different revenue sites and streams I have coming in, you'll see, even if you're not the one physically doing them, there's a lot more to it. It's not, I don't wish to broadcast everything out, but that's the way of life today. You're going to, once this is flashed off and eBay's not able to keep all the new traffic that came in because of the pandemic, which that's what my opinion is going to be. We're going to be back to the same thing, but they're going to have less people on the platform, or less sales going on. Poshmark's coming up. Mercari, however it's pronounced. Lots of other sites have been doing a push. Bonanza even did a push the other day. Hip's working on it. We've got all these other platforms coming in here that, I'm still able to make sales on. And it's hit a tipping point, I guess, is the point I'm looking at. Maybe everybody doesn't see it if you don't sell on a bunch of platforms, if you don't have your hands in a bunch of different baskets. But at a point when other sites get enough revenue for people to get away with just one or two other sites, say Facebook and Poshmark, eBay may not be relevant for a lot of people at some point because of these types of things. Why would I want to do 2 or 3 times as much work to list the same thing when all of a sudden now they're selling on their platforms? If a bunch of people vacate eBay at this, and again, I'm not trying to tell anybody to do anything. Don't get me wrong. I don't plan on jumping ship. I probably will never list any more records or anything that's going to cost me 3 times the amount of labor. What happens when the clothing aspect, when you have to put all this extra information in clothing? I dropped it. I got rid of clothing when item specifics went into clothing, when clothing had all these other issues and the measurements and everything. I drop items that take more time to list. Either that or I don't list them on eBay anymore. Just like them cutting off the adult items. I have people tell me all the time, adult items are all over the place. I see them in regular searches all the time. It's not possible. That doesn't happen. The adult items that you're seeing in any search you see without going to the adult section are from sellers that listed it intentionally or wrongly in the wrong category in the regular part of eBay. You do not ever see any of the adult items. It's in a walled off section of eBay. It's not connected to the regular eBay. You've got to go through several. You can't even find it basically by looking on eBay. You have to type in adults only section of eBay on a Chrome search. That's the easiest way to get to that section. Then you've got to click a couple other links. Then you got to do an age verification, and then you got to click another button just to be brought to those pages. You don't see them. They're not connected. They're not stored on the same servers. There's no interconnection. Again, it's basically like a subnet of where a subnet that's not connected up with the rest of eBay's structure. That's how they do those sorts of things. If you don't know, I got a degree. I set up databases. This isn't me randomly throwing off some information. I'm educated on that item. I know how that works. I've seen it in person. I've set up some myself. I spent years in college on some of that. So you can't see it unless somebody intentionally put it in the regular section. And I see it in the regular section. eBay banning those items off of the platform is going to do the opposite. I can almost guarantee you will see far more adult material on the regular eBay once they ban it, because they won't be able to sell it anywhere else. You'll see posties covering up stuff, which you do now, even though it's not supposed to be on there. And again, try and report something. I tried to report 3 different items in a category, and every time it told me there was an error and I needed to call to report those items. Now, I wanted to make sure I wasn't blocked or something else, and I was able to report other items, but certain items I wasn't able to report at all. There was no option other than calling, and of course, we all know if you don't have Anchor Store support like us, you can't call them. And why would I want to spend extra time? eBay does not police. You might get something pulled down. You'll see hundreds of that same item that you got dinged for still on the site. Even if you go and report those, they could be up there for weeks or months or never be taken down. We all know that. I'm not saying anything that anybody who hasn't been on the site for any length of time doesn't already know. I'm 100% sure that that's the case because I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people. I've been on YouTube for over 3 years talking about eBay and stuff like that, and I've talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The item specific, I would have to say, overall has been the worst complaint nightmare that's been ongoing on the whole entire platform for all of these 3 years that I could say. And instead of getting better, it's gotten worse. And again, it's not making it easier for anybody to list on the platform in a society where every other platform out there is easier to list on. It shouldn't be easier for me to list on Amazon over eBay for a simple $10 record. It's going to make a lot of people rethink the amount of items that they're putting up, dollar-wise, I should say. We may have to raise the low end of our items in some categories. Otherwise, it just won't list them on the platform. Again, you've got to take into consideration the amount of time it takes you to list so many items in an hour. Like, how many items can you list an hour, I guess is the bottom point. If I can list at least 30 plus items an hour, I list those types of items. We drew that line a couple months ago. We try for 40 or better items an hour to list one person. Each person should be able to list 40 items in some specific categories an hour. Again, there's factors on what you're selling. If records are going to bot me down below that 30 mark, I'm not going to list them on eBay. I've got a line. I can't see that being anything useful. Eddie Howie, no one knows who that is. If I sell an Eddie Howie record, no one's going to know who it is. No one's going to be sitting there typing in for his name in an item specific. You're going to end up with a million item specifics. You're going to end up with so much space on the database from irrelevant information or NA listed on millions of different things. As I know a lot of people just put NA. I've done it because there's no other way to do many of those things. It's just so much of a time constrainer that even if I made a little less money on another platform, I would make up for it in the time I saved by not doing 3 times the work to list the same item on eBay. So again, if I'm losing $10 an hour listing stuff, I might as well just list it somewhere else and not spend that time. I can get more of it up. And then it pays for itself either way. So again, these are factors that eBay has forced us to look at again. Again, this isn't, again, I agree to their side. I'm on the user agreement. I accept it. I sell in it. This is retroactively billing me for my own stuff, basically, because I've had to invest hundreds of dollars to add item specifics. Again, I got 1,400 plus to do. If you don't put in item specifics, they won't relist your item at the end of the 30-day cycle, or it won't show, and they'll still have it rolling through your account, and no one will see it. You gotta fix them. So again, we're putting information into the eBay database that fully doesn't help us, and from my personal test on it, hurts us. It hurts my revenue on those types of items. No one's going to sort through for some oddball Victorian trade card name. There doesn't need to be 1,000 different categories for that. There doesn't need to be 1,000 different, artists for everything. They already, like for a Beatles record, there already is a Beatles section that just Beatles. Why would I have to put Beatles in the title, pick a Beatles section, and then put an item specific for the main performer as the Beatles once again? Again, this is just an example. There's imprints listed for the records which only show up on a CD. Again, they've mix-mashed what goes with what. That's partially due to, I'm sure, bad coders. Someone doesn't know what goes where, or misconceptions on stuff. Like the grading scale on eBay. It doesn't go with any standard. It doesn't match there's 2 grading standards. Vintage Jazz Mart is for vintage 78 records, usually 40s or before. And then you've got Goldmine Standard. Neither of those are reflected in eBay's grading scale. Same thing kind of goes with comic books, trade cards. It's all over the place. It's just, if somebody's looking for a Star Wars card, they're going to type in Star Wars card. If they know a year, they may type in the year. A lot of people may just throw a year in based on a copyright, and it may not be the year of release. I see that all the time, like on reprint cards or cards that are like classics or something. You might see a 1977 date on a Star Wars item, but the card came out in 97. So you're going to run across all sorts of different things just as easy as you did before, all these different errors that aren't going to help you. And that's basically what I see across the board on most of the item specifics. Nobody who buys the stuff that I sell in the categories I sell is really worried about that. They don't type in records and try and sort it down because people don't list that way. If I pick an item specific that's narrowing down, I might be missing. And I've shown this before. Like in the past, if I type in Weeble versus Weebles, I'm shown different things. Depending on where that search is started too, eBay automatically forces you into a specific category result. So if I type in Weebles from the main page, it automatically puts me in the toy playset section, even though 20% of all of the Weeble listings aren't listed in that section. So if you're new, you don't understand how eBay works, 20% of the items you may want to see won't show up, simply because of how eBay has intentionally set the result structure on eBay. It's the way it is. I've got videos showing you that exact same thing happening over and over and over and over and over again. That's how the database is done. And then they're constantly changing stuff around. I was trying to put a video together showing everybody, right out in front, so you can see that none of this is being made up. Some of the awful results you get from some of the item specifics, but on a weekly basis, they've been changing. So they're still not sure what they're doing. They don't have it seems like a solid structure when they roll these out. And they're, from what I see, surely not talking to people that are like the dominant factors in the categories that they're adjusting. I probably have more of many items like Victorian trade cards or something than anybody else in the entire category. I haven't checked in a while, but at one point we had 20 some odd % of the entire category was ours. Some categories I'm like 60%. They're smaller, they're small niches. But that's not necessarily the point. They're not talking to some people. I talk to people who are number one in categories. I've talked to 2 or 3 people. I talk to some fairly regularly. They've never talked to these people, and they've got more up on certain items than anybody else. Why aren't they reaching out to the people who do the categories? Other sites, even Amazon asks me surveys. How is this? How is that? All that kind of stuff. YouTube asks me questions. Does this work better for you? Does that work better for you? eBay just rolls out in fact, I even stopped responding. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a program that I'm technically in. They send you surveys. You kind of get glimpses on stuff. But whatever I put in there, they always do whatever they want. I just gave up on it. And it seems like all I was doing was giving them feedback on whether they thought they could charge us more money. So that's what it felt like to me based on some of the questions. Let's put it this way. To get quantity up, you need to be able to get it up fast by yourself if you're a one person, and you need it to be passive income where you don't have to do a lot to it. If I've got 10,000 items on 5 different sites, I'm going to spend probably 85% of my time dealing with eBay, even though I've got the same amount of items on all those 5 sites. eBay is where I always spend more of my time. It is always issues like this because instead of making it simpler, they're going back in time. They're going back to like 5 years ago when you had to do, well, probably more like 10 or 15, where there was multiple pages and multiple places you had to do all this stuff. So they cleaned up the pages years ago, and now they're making back extra work. It's going to be hurting people because of time factor. It's going to be hurting the site because people are going to be like people like me. Again, I know people complain and say, well, you got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of aggravation that go with that. There's a lot of things as well. But when you aggravate the people who do have a lot of stuff and it's not worth their time, it's not just me. There's record dealers who have 20 times as many records up or 100 times as many records up as I do. What do you think they're looking at? If all these people pull it just to go to a record-only site and stuff, that would kill eBay. That would kill those items for eBay. You might think, well, yeah, there'll be more space for us and there won't be as many of them up and I'll have a better chance. But everybody's going to know where all the records go. Anybody who's buying records, for example, knows Discogs. And that's where a lot of people buy them either way. Just like postcards. Most people who are into postcards knows hip postcards. If you've sold postcards for any length of time, chances are you've heard of it. Anyway, let's pop up here to the top. I'll probably have some discounts and things coming up for hip shortly. So If you want to hang on and wait on that or what, I can go into it. I'm probably going to do a video on some of the items I've sold on the platform so you can kind of see, and we'll probably give you some insider stuff on that too. But welcome up, auction up. I got Penny Day in the house. Hey, Marty. Jiminy Flip It. Marty does videos too. I have not had a chance to watch anybody's videos in probably a week and a half. Last one I saw was one of Dom, Primetime Treasure Hunters, just FYI. No disrespect to anybody. My time is insane. People ask, what do you do a normal day? I wouldn't even begin to want to tell you and go off because most people would be like, ugh. I'm a full-fledged, second I hit the floor, I'm running all day. That's me. I gotta move. So if I don't get something done or I don't put a video up, I feel weird. I like to get them up every day. I like that. It's like I'm motivated to do that, I guess. Let's see. Amazon Seller 99, how are you doing? Yeah, it has been quite a week here. I shot some video. It's going to go up probably on their channel. You'll see a thing here, but on some UAP, UFO stuff. I know it's not technically rated to this channel at all, but I'll go into it in another video, but you'll see something come out on that probably about the same time you see another art professor videos. Again, I still got all that, just my time has just been so pulled from here to there. Applebee's Attic, how are you doing? Good evening, good evening. There's Nancy. She said they put a plush into a wall decor category. Yeah, I think I still need to get my lighting here just a hair up to speed, but again, I've got everything new here, so we're switched around again. Daryl, Carolina Picks, good evening, good evening. Welcome in the house there. Let's see here. Rebecca Reed, how are you doing? Rose Smith, thank you very kindly, Rose. Mr. Hale, how are you doing, Bob? Hope you are doing well. Yeah, Bob sent me some stuff actually, and I've been trying to put a video together on searches and stuff, and it's kind of hard. I might have to actually wait on that until they force the item specifics to be required on June, whatever the date is. It's only a couple weeks away, only because they keep screwing around with the settings. If you ever... I look for Weebles. One of us here looks for Weebles every day. The wife got a real nice error one the other day that survived from the 70s with that error, undamaged. I'll show it in a video one of these days. But the point of it is if you do searches and you're a collector of something, chances are you do those searches several times every single day of your life. And you'll notice instantly when eBay changes something in the structure of the search results. Just FYI. And I constantly... In the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen a lot of different results showing up. One thing I do is usually there's 3 or 4 laptops open, whether people are coming in or going or whatever the case may be. And I'll do the same searches on different laptops to see the results too. And it's just been a little confusing. They're changing so much junk lately. I don't know. I don't think they fully understand or know what they're fully doing. Maybe they have an idea on what they want to do, but I don't think it's being conveyed to the people who do the coding. I don't think the coding people know how eBay wants it. It's the only thing I can think of. Linnell Green, good evening, good evening. Doing it wrong, welcome. Beth Luan, good evening, thank you very kindly. Danny Gray, welcome. Mr. Peeps. Let me get down through here. Suzanne Arrington, welcome. Hey, Carl, how are you doing, Carl? Hopefully you and your lovely bride are doing well in the sunny state of Florida. Paige Baker, how are you doing? Colorado Springs. I've been out to Colorado Springs before. I flew out there for Einstein Brothers. They were in Golden, Colorado, and we were all over, did quite a few states and got to travel a little bit while we were out there. Good day from PA. Cecily Sum. Good evening. Love your channel. Thank you very kindly. Been to PA a few times myself. I took the train from, I think it was D.C. to PA once or twice. Matthew Wybush, how are you doing? Maggie's Attic, welcome. I'll be in and out between work areas, but looking forward to this. Yeah, I got you, Carl. Item specifics. Again, I've been on here 3 years. I'll say this again. The biggest complaints I've heard lately, the biggest complaints I've ever heard on all of these 3 years, routinely, constantly, reoccurring complaints, are on the item specifics. It's literally... I've got an article that I'm almost done too. You're gonna see it again on e-commerce bites. I did an article for Ina, which will be in next month. It's all on item specifics, as well. I got a second article going in there too. But I've been reading e-commerce bites for like years. I can't even tell you how long. So it's nice to write for it. But I got to pick the topic. It's on item specifics, and I'm not shy to give my opinions, and it's going to be in there. I know that eBay follows that post because I won't get into it. I almost said something I probably shouldn't have, but if you know about the attacks, know about the history of eBay, the execs that are in federal, I know they watch the platform. And if they don't care and don't read or anything, when that goes up, if everybody wants to help pull attention to this, when that article goes up, everybody leave a comment on there, because eBay is going to be there. They read all that stuff over, and they don't do anything about it. They just decide trying to shut down the people doing it. But the point of it is, though, if we can push it to eBay to, man, it's a constant. Every day I get a bunch of people commenting on the awfulness of the item specifics for anybody trying to make a living. If you've got a full-time revenue, you've got a lot of stuff up, you're going to have a lot of headache with this, everybody. And to make a full-time revenue for me, I have to have the amount of items I have. I don't have the luxury of some of the other items that luckily people can always find these $1,000 items every day of the week. I can't do it. I have people tell me, well, this guy finds that and this guy finds that. I don't find that. I don't find these $1,000 items every day of the week and hundreds of them a day. It just doesn't work that way. I don't have hundreds of items that are worth $50 that I can just go up and pick up any other day. It's potluck most of the time. I do have better sources than most people, but still, it doesn't work that way. It's again, this is killing our time, and my time is valuable. Your time is valuable. I've got videos just talking about the time aspect of it. I got a video talking about how many showing that I can list over 40 items an hour easily. If I'm going to be forced, and everybody's going to be forced to step up the amount of time it takes you to list certain items, it's going to kill the amount of productivity you are getting. You won't be able to get as much done. And when Poshmark is easy to list, and Mercari, whatever it's pronounced, any of those, even Bonanza, I just click a few buttons. I mean, it's troublesome. This is the tipping point, as I said. This is where I see, even though eBay's revenue is doing okay now because of a pandemic, I can see this going terribly wrong in another year or two down the road, because they're always short-sighted, like the buyback of $5.1 billion in buying back their stocks. That's short-sighted. I've been looking for longevity. I've talked about it. I'm looking for the future. I'm looking 5 years down the road for our business. I'm figuring out where I want to be. I'm doing projections. I'm estimating. I'm doing calculations based on a continual rise in revenue streams. I don't know what eBay's looking at other than adding more charges in, or they've now gotten money hungry and just sitting there taking baths with money, dollar bills or $100 bills from all the money they're getting from managed payments. I don't know. I would never cut off the adult stuff. I would never cut off StubHub. I would have never cut off classifieds. You don't cut off stuff that brings you in money. You expand those. That's why I say I don't have any faith at all, nor did I since the very day they announced the new CEO. Again, I say this and everybody, he killed the Nook. So anyway, that's just my take on it. Let's go back to folks in the house here. Where are we at? Matthew Wabash, welcome. I'm back down here. Auction up. Hey, Dwight, how are you doing? Let's see here. Earl of Loomis, Cottonport Sundry, thank you very kindly as well. Gloria Van Tassel, welcome. Been to New York quite a few times. I was there I had to deliver a van. I was in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside Pentagon City during 9/11, and I had to deliver a van. I could have had somebody else do it, but I actually took the trip. And I dropped off a van there just so I could see the World Trade Center. I did the walk. I took the taxi. It was a long ordeal trying to get there with all the traffic and stuff. And then I took the train. I think I went to PA after that, Philadelphia, and then I came back. I don't remember the whole trip because I took quite a few of those kind of trips. But it was an interesting experience, to say the least. If you haven't hit the pop that like button there. We'll go back to topic in a minute. Let's just see who's in the house here. Cheryl Nichols, sorry, another Pennsylvanian. Don, you recently sold 378s to the same person. Did you ship all three together? No, I shipped them all three together. For a 78, Bob, I think I have a video, but maybe I'll have to put another couple videos together on shipping. For 78s, if I'm shipping multiple 78s, I always sleeve them. If I buy a huge collection of 78s, I take every single 78 that I'm not going to keep, I take them out and keep all the sleeves. You can sell the empty sleeves for first off if they're nice labeled, nice sleeves, because you can't buy them easily. They're like 70 cents a piece for a decent green stock sleeve, new NOS, because they don't make 78s like that. So you can't just get them anywhere. So I always save those. But I'll always sleeve them, and then they're bagged airtight in bag. And then from there, I usually put just one piece of a side of a box on it. Again, I got a video. Just type in ultimate media shipping, and in my video list, and you will find that video. I guarantee it. It shows a man juggling a whole bunch of boxes on the thumbnail. But I use two sides. I'll use half of a 12 by 12 box to wrap up a 78 stack. And on 78s, I've shipped out as many as 10 that way. I've shipped out more, but I don't like to do it in if you're shipping out like 20 78s bundled, you'll have to put them in two stacks of 10 each. And then instead of a 12-inch cubed box, you need a 14-inch cube to take up the extra cushion, because it's going to weigh way more. And the records, when you do that kind of boxing, you need to have the paper stuffed in there tighter than you would just a single record. With a single 78, it's cushiony. It's like a spring in there, and nothing happens to them. I've never had one broken that way. With them stacked up with big, thick stacks, the sheer amount of the thickness of the record prevents them, if you double cardboard them, from breaking. So then in those cases, you would actually stuff in more paper, and you'd have it'd still be a little cushiony, but not like the single discs. I'll try and throw that together maybe, Bob, in a video on you for that. I ship out multiple 78s and 45s all the time. You're talking about the 3 Edison discs I probably sent out for $40 a piece. I sold 3 Edison discs that I paid $1 a piece. I might not even have paid $1 a piece. I actually turned down an 800 disc set that I could have got probably for $500, just because I don't want to mess with records right now because of eBay. That's because of eBay, truthfully. But those I sold for $40. We sold 120 to the same person, shipped in one box, cut down my costs, it cut down my time. It's not quite a third of the time, because you got to do a little extra to ship 3 together, but it's a good way. I love selling multiples to the same person, and I do that. I actually looked before I did the video the other day. I could not find a day going back for I don't know how long, for months, where I didn't sell at least multiple items to one single person, at least one. And some days I sold like 5, 6 things to 3, 4, 5, even 6 people on a few days. One day I sold 192 items to one single person. It was over $4,000. It was smaller dollar stuff, but at the end of the day, it added up to over $4,000. I had to have somebody come in for 2 hours just to out pull those. I think it took more than 2 hours. I think it was me and Ian picking for at least a couple hours for 2 of us. It was a long time. It was worth it, though. It was $4,000 from that one single purchase. One day, one person. And then I had all my other stuff still to deal with, too. I think Marky was labeling and getting boxes ready and cutting cardboard while we were doing that, because it came out of nowhere. Once in a while, that kind of thing happens. I have a few clientels that, one of them's in San Francisco, and he has a big shop. I've seen his studio. It's a massive place. But he filled up his inventory from us, which was really cool, because it really freed up some space. It threw some money in my way. It was pretty much all profit. So anyway, enough of that. The cherry picker, welcome. Another Pennsylvania. Okay, Auction Ups, Pennsylvania as well. I'm terrible on names. I see so many people, so many names. I'm pretty good on some people. If I've talked to you, personally off of YouTube, chances are I'll never forget your name, like Bob or somebody like that, or Marty or any of that. There's Travis in the house too. How are you doing? I have not heard back yet, Travis, on PhD. You put in your paperwork, it goes to a board, you get approved, because there's the program that I applied for, there's a stipend. I would get paid partially. I don't remember. I want to say it was like $17,500 stipend for a year. You've got to produce something at the end. They've got to accept what your thesis is going to be. You can't just say, hey, I want a PhD. You've got let's go into this for just 1 second here. I don't want to get off topic too much, but for my master's thesis, I had to come up with something that no one's done, that has showed a result. I had to come up with a thesis statement that says, hey, this is what I would like to show or prove or establish, or again, it depends on your approach, but I picked the influence of music on the masses. That's what I wrote mine on. I don't know, it was like 90 pages or something like that at the end of it. It took a lot of time. It took 3 straight months of writing, and I had 112 books I took out. But anyway, the point of it is, though, that you've got to pick it. They've got to sign off on it. So even if I get into it, then I'll have to come up with something, a thesis, an idea, my point on taking the PhD. For a PhD in these type of fields, you've got to come up with a new idea, show something new. You've got to show something. And I'm still, again, it's American cultural studies, which is what I'm into. Everything I sell pretty much these days is tied to the culture of America, a big mixing bowl of ethnicities and cultures that have come together, and all that ties into like jazz. I took history of jazz. All that stuff ties in. You got to be able to say, hey, this is what I want to show. So there's a lot more to it than me just sending off a packet, honestly. I mean, if you get accepted, though, it's free. It's just, you get a stipend, and it's a free program. So I mean, that's the point of it. It'd be stupid to not at least try at this point in my book. So anyway, well, thank you, Laura, Vermont. We've lost quite a few relatives. I lost 2 because of the pandemic specifically. People ask, you work a lot of hours, and stuff like that. I'm getting older. I have less and less family these days. At some point, I will be the head of an entire section of my family, like it or not. So I've got motivation and drive. That's the point. I've got motivation and drive, and all of this plays into where I'm at in my life. I'm past that midway mark. So, I know people say midlife crisis and all that stuff. I'm not in a crisis. I'm in a obsession to get more done and to advance what we're doing. That's all I got going through my head 24/7. Or the one other topic, which again I hollered out earlier in the video. Those are my 2 only obsessions, is my business and then the UFO, because I did see one that matches the description of David Fravor, the Tic Tac one. That's what I saw. I'm sure of it. I mean, there's no doubt what. Anyway, I don't want to go into it right here. It's not the topic here. Thank you, Cheryl Nichols, as well. Life happens. That's all I can say. And you mourn, you move on, and there's nothing you can do. I can roll with the punches any day of the week, and I'm not one to get down. This week's been a little bit rough, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I guess. I keep having epiphanies of things that I can do, and new opportunities open up and stuff. And I'm not going to live forever. I want to make sure that we get to a certain point with the business. So if something happens to me, the wife's taken care of. My kids have a opportunity or an option and stuff like that. So, Brian Willett from Missouri. I've been to Missouri once, twice. I drove through a second time, so twice. Schreiker 20, welcome. Jay Span Green, how are you doing? Item specifics are the topic, as we've been saying, too. We'll bop back to the topic at hand in just a few moments. Auction up. eBay is losing a lot of market share. Much of it, I feel, at this point, they're doing on their own. They don't need any help anymore, but they're still, like, cutting off the adult material. It's going to flood the rest of eBay with stuff that shouldn't be on the platform. That's all it's going to do. You can't just go and see adult-only items without doing that whole process like I discussed in the front of it. It's not stored in the same database. They're separated. They would have federal crimes for showing adult content to minors if it wasn't. There's a separate whole internet basically for it, or a subnet for it on eBay. They're not connected. You can't see the adult section on a normal search. The items that you run into that are adults on a normal search are ones that people out there have listed intentionally in items, whether intentionally or not. Maybe they don't know. I don't know the case, but that have listed in sections that aren't adult only. It's the only reason you were seeing them. So, it's annoying. Yeah, and they are losing market share. That's why this is so, it makes no sense. And I know people have said, this is my first thought was, what are they trying to sell the company? Maybe that's what they are trying to do. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, because venture capitalists come in, buy enough shares, get board members. They'll push the board to sell off all the assets. Again, stock buyback, which is eBay has done, $5.1 billion of money that they gained from StubHub and things like that. They reinvested into buying their own stock back. It inflates the value of stocks so that these venture capitalists make more money in their pockets because they have shares of the stock. At the end of the day, they've sold off all the assets of a company. They force them to sell it. Then this happened to what was it, Bass Pro Shop? I think Bass Pro Shop this happened to too, maybe either that or Cabela's or one of those shops this happened to. One of those, if you look it up, I'm sure one of those places this happened to. And then after the company was sold, all the value was gone. All the venture capitalists made all their money, and then they were gone. They just went to another company and did the same thing. That's what I worry about this, because again, I love the aspect of selling. I love the vintage. I love the collectibles. But I want to have fun. I want it to not be as much work as it should be. So if every other site but eBay is making it easier for us, where am I going to put my time, my money, my effort? I'm going to put it where it's easier, because I get more items up. It takes less work for me. I'm making about the same amount of money. If I'm making the same money on eBay or on Hip or on Etsy or on Amazon or Walmart, wherever I've got stuff sitting on, and I'm making more money on one platform, I'm not going to list it on the other platforms. Again, I list certain things on Amazon, like 78 Records and stuff, because I sell them for more than I would on eBay. I sell cylinder records. And again, people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I sell cylinder records for more on Amazon than I do on eBay. And I can sell 4 and 5 sometimes to the same person on cylinder records on Amazon versus 1, if I'm lucky, for half the cost of what I sold it for on Amazon. Again, it's gotten to be crazy. I'm sure there'll be hundreds of stories on this. If you want to get some more attention, if everybody out there wants to pop some comments down in the section on all the issues you've had with item specifics, I know eBay watches some videos when it dogs on them. And again, I put the title in here because I fully believe I'm giving labor away to eBay. I've invested hundreds of dollars into paying employees to add item specifics that are getting me less money for the listings that I did those changes to. The ones that I'm making more money on are ones that I didn't change the item specifics on. So again, I gave them the shot. I paid hundreds of dollars to test this because they said, oh, it's going to help you, but it doesn't seem to do anything for those results. I could see if you've got a pair or you sell different shirts that you would need to put an item specific in for the size, possibly for the color if it's an NOS shirt. But other than that, stuff like that, or a cut of jeans, a cut of the pant legs, or skinny jeans, ultra slim, I can see all of that. No one's going to wear a postcard. If somebody's looking for a postcard, no one in their right mind who wants a very specific vintage postcard is going to worry if it's unposted or posted. Totally irrelevant information. If it's a scarce card or one that somebody wants, there may be an interest to get it used or not used, but many people may not even pay attention to that. I would never, ever see somebody saying, I'm not going to get that card that's rare, I've never seen, oh, it's used, I can't get it. People ask me all the time, does it matter if there's writing on the back of a postcard? Not at all. I sell them whether it's used or not. If it's a scarce card, it doesn't matter at all. And even if it's not a scarce card, probably 95% of what I sell are used postcards. 95% are used. And that's probably a very fair, legitimate estimate of overall of me selling postcards every single day of my life on multiple platforms. 95% of all postcards are used. Why do I need to put that in the title? It makes no sense, or not in the title, in the item specific. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's a total waste of my time, your time. It means, again, hang on, I'm sorry here. I've got a couple things going on behind the scenes. But again, it's a waste of time. All it's going to do is have more of the bigger sellers that make eBay more money decide that, well, I'm just not going to list those items because I don't have to, it's too much work. Again, if I'm trying to list $10 items, and it's now taking me 3 times as long because I've got to type in the Rolling Stone, the title Rolling Stones, or cut and paste 3 different times just to satisfy eBay's idiotic item specifics. I'm not going to list them there anymore. I can just literally type in Rolling Stones, a song name, and I'm given options on Discogs, and I can just click the one that I want to do instantly, and I'm done. That's it. My price goes in a condition. It goes right to my account. It's easy. Even on Amazon, the Rolling Stones, can't get no or satisfaction, whatever the title happens to be. I type that in, 45. I put 2 photos. I put a price, and I'm done. I don't have to do any of that other junk that's eBay complains about. My own stuff. If I'm in Shopify, I don't have to do any of that. If I'm, exporting it to other platforms, it just pulls in for information. The only one, again, if I've got 10,000 items on 5 different sites, 85% of my time and effort to monitor those sites is all going to eBay. So again, why is my income less than half coming from eBay now? Because I don't have to deal with all that extra crud other places. Has nothing to do with hating eBay or anything. You want to make it easy on your business. You want to make it where you can list more items and get more revenue in. And whatever site's doing that, that's where you're going. That's why people are going to Poshmark. That's why people are going to Mercari, whatever it's pronounced, and trying this stuff out and seeing. That's why Facebook Marketplace is going well. That's why people are selling on Instagram, because there's other options. eBay, I'm sorry, eBay's just doing, they're like in the Stone Age almost nowadays. And I've had people, there was a comment today, one of the kids pointed out, somebody said that, I don't remember who or what video it was on, somebody pointed it out to me, but talking about eBay shouldn't be a flea market, you want to get the millennials on the site and all that kind of stuff. That's what eBay is. The only way you're going to get the millennials and stuff like that is to sell NOS stuff only. Most of the millennials that I know don't collect anything. My kids are a little different, but most of them don't do that. They're not interested in that stuff. It's all technology and stuff like that. You're already losing them. And if eBay's just going to turn it over to Chinese imports and imports from India and all these other countries, again, I'm not trying to criticize any country. That's not the point. The point is that everybody knows that you can bypass rules and regulations in other countries that you can't here, so you're competing with, in many cases, inferior products versus some of the products that are from this country specifically. Again, this isn't a dog. This is from us ordering clothing off of Amazon for multiple years and being easily able to distinguish the quality instantly. The only thing we ever send back from Amazon are clothing. That's the only thing we've ever sent back, I think, that I can think of. I can't think of much else other than that. Oh, a pair of shoes once. I'll take that back. And I think they were counterfeits. Again, we're going back to imports from another country. In fact, they were my Rockports. That's the other one I think it was, maybe. Let's see here. Rob, I have no idea what you're talking about. Julie Wilkinson, Alexandria, VA. Well, thank you very kindly. I lived in Alexandria, VA myself. I used to run the regional-wise Einstein Brothers Bagels out there. One was an apply. I used to deal with 32. I did all the way out to Fredericksburg. We did Richmond, all the way up to Annapolis. I did Maryland, Lowell. I did a whole bunch of stuff up there. It was real neat, kind of. Hey, Ben Rowe in the house. What's up, Ben? Yeah, what is going on with eBay right now? Like cross-stitch has specifics like the director, character. What is it for? Yeah, Susan Arrington. People have been sending me crazy. It reminds me back in the old days where Jay Leno had the titles, like ads and stuff that didn't make any sense, or they missed a punctuation and it made stuff look weird. It's the same thing. It's a joke. It's turned into a comical thing. You could do a book on the stupid item specifics that are tied to items that mean nothing. You could literally do a book or do a meme a day about all the idiocracies of eBay's item specifics. I've had people show me a plush that had some plastic thing tied to it. I mean, there's just all kinds of crazy stuff out there. Yeah, people are agreeing with that comment too. Travis is saying it's big data, nothing less, all about deep analyticals, cybermetrics of reselling as much as it sucks. We're going to have to adapt. They're not doing it on the other platforms, though. That's why I say that it's not. eBay thinks that Amazon's got all this data. We all know that Amazon's thing is that they know, like if you've got a button and you're reordering stuff, they know all that stuff. They can predict. And this is why Amazon's even gotten in trouble, because they know all the third-party vendors, how much they sell, and they can come in with their own branded product and sell it for less than you, and you'd never be able to compete. So it's an unfair thing. So they gather everybody's data on what they're selling and all that stuff. Specifics. That's not going to fix or give them big data. What they need is sales history, buyer trends of to be useful. It's going to take it like 5 years or better. They need a trending results. They need quantities sold. They need there's a lot of stuff that this isn't going to be useful for them. For me to have a Jimmy Ed Ho record or something up there, that's not going to help eBay at all. It's going to tie up database space. It's going to be more information that they have to mess up on. It's going to be more IT stuff that's going to get messed up on, like plushes showing up in wall decor. That's eBay's fault. It wasn't like the person listing it or changed it in the middle of stream. I've seen stuff like that. I've seen things that have been moved categories and done wrong, and item specific shows up from the old category in a new I've seen all that. I could spend hours just doing videos on showing you all the crazy things that are showing up. Again, I don't ever want to have to beat up on a company that I make money from. But man, they've went over the deep end on this. They're just grasping at anything, trying to figure out what could make them be a relevant figure in the reselling world, considering they started it. But they're grabbing at straws now. They're getting the low-lying fruit instead of going after the top of the tree to command the whole structure. Amazon's at the top of the tree. eBay's sitting there getting the apples falling on the ground, basically, I guess you would say. That's how I would take it. Like worrying about high-dollar watches. I have not met a single person who has sent a watch in for authentication. Neither have I met someone for purses or any of that stuff. I don't know anybody. I don't know, and I've talked to thousands of people. It's a small, tiny niche that's not going to rock the world on anything. It's just not there. Yeah, maybe the fact that some exec is a watch guy, or maybe Mr. Wonderful bought some of the company. I don't know, but it doesn't help. Like the guitar issues. Why was guitar sales, and I know people talk Reverb and all the other platforms and stuff out there, but guitars were cheap because the fees. That was the lowest fee on the entire platform was for selling guitars. It was like half of any of the fees I had to deal with. And one of the execs or board member was a guitar guy. Shoes. What do? One of the guys, him and his son, are in business selling $100,000 worth of shoes, was what I was told. Mysteriously, they do a big program for just shoes. Everything seems to be a pet project of somebody who works at eBay. Again, my opinion. So if you got a job at eBay and you happen to do something aside, you're all set. Doesn't really help the overall structure, the overall aspect of it. Shoes are hot. Yeah, shoes are hot, but man, Nike wants to sell you shoes. They announced that they're going to do that. Do you think eBay is going to keep up with Nike? Jesus, yeah, there's no way that's happening. No way. If Nike wants to dominate the field, they could stop people from selling Nikes and put a Vero in on it, and they would control the entire used Nike shoe market. Reebok could do the same darn thing. There's nothing stopping them. And they would sell them. All they'd have to do is put sales and announcements and only release special shoes on a platform and all this other things, and they would crush eBay on any of the shoe things. Reverb wants to crush eBay on guitars and things. They could do that too. eBay isn't a dominant force. They're not positioning themselves well. They're cutting off the revenue streams from StubHub, adult material, classifieds and stuff, and banking on stuff that's in a fluctuational market. Collectibles go up and down. They're down for a decade. What happens if the shoes crash? What happens if there's another mass inflation and nobody's buying watches anymore? Cards aren't going to stay up forever either. There'll be a crash in the market one of these days. Cards have crashed in the 90s. If anybody knows cards, when Comic Balls flooded out and Impel and Upper Deck flooded the category and flooded them all out there, the prices plummeted to almost nothing for many, like a decade or better. That's going to happen again. It's happened 2 or 3 times since I've been collecting cards. There was a time in the 80s, so about every 10 years I could pretty much give you a time frame and show you without a doubt that stuff fluctuates. I would never base my business, all of my business, get rid of all the stuff that never fluctuates. Ticket sales don't fluctuate. Maybe right now that they came ahead. Again, that wasn't their choice. They didn't know a pandemic was going to come in. When the pandemic's done, how many people are going to want to go to a show and get tickets? It's going to be packed. When TSO comes back, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, we're 100% going to the next show in town no matter what. So everybody wants to get out. It was stupid. They could have had a flush, massive avalanche of sales on stuff like that. I would never, it would be like me saying I shouldn't sell on Amazon because of one little issue. I'll cut off Etsy. I'll just go with eBay and hope eBay does fine. That's what eBay's doing. They're banking on this pandemic money coming in, and it's staying there. They've shown one thing that they do is they can decline their revenue basis on Amazon. So Amazon keeps going up and eBay has keep going down. Obviously, they're up a little bit because of the pandemic, but that's luck. That's luck for them and unlucky for everybody else. But anyway, let's go back here. I don't want to rant and rave. That wasn't my intent. Let me pop on down here. Susan Arrington, I just put NA or unknown. If it won't let me, I leave blank. Yeah, that's the problem, because half of them you can't even use. I can bet you at some point they're going to remove all of those and you'll have to do it over again. That's my personal opinion. They're going to look at, 40% of the category item specific says NA. And they're going to know, hey, everybody's just throwing in stuff. And that's my opinion. They'll change it. That's what I think they'll do. Every recommended item specific that says recommended, eventually they've always turned into required. Every one of them so far. Maybe it's taken 6 months or something, but it's happened. So, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to trust them with my livelihood. Again, that's why eBay's revenue, the amount of revenue I make from eBay is less than half of my income. Well less than half now. And it trickles down little bit by little bit by little bit all the time. Because I'm given other options. I'm given options that are easier to do. I've listed on Poshmark. I know it's much easier. I've dealt and played with Bonanza, Hip, everywhere else I've been at. It's easier. It's easier on Amazon than it is on eBay. Everybody's scared of Amazon. Everybody's telling me Amazon's hard. You got to do this. You got to do this. Once you're in there, once you've been doing it for a long time, Amazon just leaves you alone. I haven't had any ungated notices. I haven't had any other than like Richard Pryor's estate. But other than that, Mickey Mouse, I'll say that's 2 of them. But all I had to do was remove a word, and it was a recommended. I didn't technically have to do it. I wasn't dinged. They're petty. They're minor. They're not going to shut me down. They don't end my items. I can't think of a time when I've had an item ended on Amazon. Even when Richard Pryor's estate hit me, I was given the time by Amazon to remove or change it. You know what eBay did? They just shut those listings down. No, I had no say. Amazon gave me time. That's another good point. Amazon allowed me the time of several days, because I didn't even see it right away. I didn't look every day in that one section, your account health. But I do nowadays. But anyway, Amazon gave me time. eBay just shut me down on those listings and then threatened to give me a ding. Amazon didn't do that. Again, if I have, excuse me, I'm sorry. All my time goes to, or a disproportional amount of my time goes to eBay all of the time. If I've got to spend time somewhere out of every site and every business that I do, it always ends up getting stuck dealing with eBay issues every single time. Again, that's not my hope. I don't want that to be the case. I wished eBay would wise up and listen and stop worrying about what the execs do and what they do on their own time, and shoes and watches and guitars and all that other junk. It's not helping the average person out there at all. They can say what they want. The prices are going to keep continuing to go back up. We all know that as well. At this point, even though they've only raised it a 0.02 or whatever the case may be, it's going to go up again probably by fall. That's the one that I've heard is going to be the one that a lot of people may not be happy with. Hopefully there's not a ton of changes right before in fourth quarter, which they always seem to do as well. They never seem to get smart in that one either. Amazon, no one else does updates either in the fall and fourth quarter. No one does that kind of stuff. They always do them ahead of time. Let's see here. Well, Julie Wilkinson's, I can say for me, it didn't help my sales. I can't speak for anybody else out there. I don't have any clue on what it does for you, but I know for me, what I came up with and what I looked at on a piece of paper, literally the exact thing of what's going on, my sales versus not sales, I didn't make any money out of it. I made probably less. Now, it could be a coincidence, but we're talking 4,000 listings compared to 4,000 listings. Again, I can prove that I did this study. I can show you, you can see in videos with the 4,000 recommended. You go back to the month before that, you'll see the 8,000. They're there. It's not, I literally removed them. I did not, eBay's not going to remove recommended ones. I had to fill those in. And if I'm going to fill and spend a couple $100 in labor, I wanted to see what happens and I wanted to see some results. I don't do stuff unless I'm going to get money. I didn't have to do the recommended. I wanted to see if eBay, if it does help. Because if it did help, I would do the rest of them. I figured, heck. But to get less money out of the ones that I did it to and to spend money into it, I lost a week's worth of pay for somebody partially. It's money. I'm working for eBay for free. I had to spend money and I got nothing back out of it. It doesn't help my sales. It doesn't help my listings. It only helps eBay's structure of how they're doing things. So I'm forced to work for eBay for those aspects of it because I'm not doing it at all for me. And this is retroactive. These are things that have been on the site for years. So it's not like I knew this was coming, that they, of course, they can change or do whatever they want. But that gives a sour taste, a sour thought in people's minds. And again, when you've got 20,000 items up, 30,000 items up, like record dealers and Mr. Magazine. He's got 100,000 magazines. If he had to go in there and edit all of those with item specifics, which he probably will at some time, he might just keep them somewhere else. He sells them on Amazon. Other sites are literally right this very second working on expanding their reach and adding more categories. I can tell you for sure because I've talked to some other platforms, as I've said. So eBay isn't going to be the only structure out there. Other sites have been gaining ground, like Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace, and stuff like that. That's where the millennials are going, the places like that. Because they are easy, they're simple, they're quick, they don't give a hassle, they don't want to own and dominate your world and your life to some extent. Amazon, a little different, but it's easy. Amazon is hip because they bring you everything quickly. Amazon's got more than just selling stuff. They've got the whole image of Amazon and all the other stuff. So, that's just the way it is. I'm not saying I'm a big fan of Amazon. I don't really care for the CEO at all, but anyway. Let's see here. J. Span Green, the more dialed down they are about the specifics, the less are visible to the casual buyer. That's exactly right. The more, if somebody's going in centering and keeps going down, picking another item specific, another item specific, it's showing less items to them. Part of the reason stuff sold in the past was because they weren't narrowed down. Now, people say, well, they get frustrated if they can't find what they want. As long as eBay's showing them, whatever is in the title of their search and items that have that word in their title, it shouldn't really matter because they're going to still see those same words. If I'm looking for something and I see words in every one of the results that's what I'm looking for, I'm fine with items that aren't exactly what I'm looking for because I try to use as few words when I'm searching for anything. If you're doing a search for comp prices on Terapeak, use as few words as you can because, again, you get more results. So like with Weebles versus Weeble and how they force you into like the toys play sets section. I'm missing 20% of every Weeble on the site every day of the week if I trust and go to eBay's recommended category for it. Now, eBay's thought is, well, everybody should list in the category we think it should be in. Let's say I've got a Christmas Weeble, and somebody wants to list in the Christmas section. It's Christmas. It was made for Christmas. It's in a Christmas package. A Christmas comic book or something has a Christmas scene on the cover. It's a Christmas item. You're telling me I can't list that in Christmas? Or not that I can't, that you're not going to show that item to somebody, even though they're looking for Superman 1941 December, but I'm showing it in a Christmas category section because it's Christmas related. You're not going to show that to them because I didn't list it in the Golden Age, Superman only, Superman main character section of the Golden Age comics and collectibles. That's what they're telling us. And that's aggravational to anybody who's a collector. And I'll pretty much guarantee you that there's a large chunk of people, especially with all the new people coming in because of the pandemic, who don't understand. They're not seeing items that they may have actually wanted. So forcing a narrowed search down to begin with is losing business. So once they started doing that, a lot of people saying my sales tanked, this tanked, that's what's doing it. They're not showing all the items. If I don't manually go in and alter eBay's search results to show all categories, I'm seeing only 80% of all Weebles that show up on the platform. Roughly 2,800 on average or so for the vintage. It just depends on the day of the week. But once you've done this a while and you're a collector, you know all that stuff. You can see when they change something. It's aggravation. I mean, it's just aggravation beyond belief. Why wouldn't they make it easier? Why wouldn't anybody want something easier? You know, it's literally like we're stepping back in time with eBay with this. But anyway. Greg Murray, in 2 days I went from only having 3 items with specifics required, 230 items needing required specifics, some specifics that were there and were removed. But yep, once now if they're telling you this is what I've seen. And eBay tells you as soon as they're telling you you're going to be recommended soon, you should go put them in. But what happens is I can see that if you wait until it says required, they don't seem to change like that. So if you got a lot, you're screwed because you have to do them. You got to wait because eBay changes them after they've already let people put them in. They don't know what they're doing. Again, this is either, they don't have a clue either in the management or the IT doesn't understand or they're not telling IT what to do correctly. I've talked to people in charge of departments. I talked to the girl who was running the promoted listings whole thing for the whole company, and she had no clue on how IT worked. She had no clue on why listings, I wanted my listings to show up in a Chrome search. She had no idea why I wanted to show up in Google. How could you not know that that's important? Working at eBay in charge of a section that your listings would be blocked from showing up with ad blocker, you didn't know any of that either. They didn't even know ad blocker would do that. They didn't research it. They had no clue. So again, these are the people running the departments. I talked to, at least what I was told, there was at least 2 people who were in charge of whole sections of eBay on this, as well as a couple other people. Who knows, maybe there was someone secretly watching and recording the conversation for all I know. I wouldn't put it past them. But none of them had an IT degree, nor could I even talk to the IT department. So anyway, let's see here. Hey, Artie, Mike, how are you doing this evening, Mike? Everybody uses NA, Bob. That's the problem. It's meaningless to put in, to require it if no one's going to put the information in the first place because it's useless information. They're not simplifying anything. Try to, as a new person out here, probably I get more complaints from new folks who are just starting to get into records or getting into this or getting into that, niches and collectibles. All categories really like that. They don't know what to put in sections. Even like me in some categories, I'm like, what the heck are you even asking for? I've been selling these items for 20 plus years, 30 years, and I haven't a clue what they're asking for. You know, that's the point. Nothing makes sense or is logical or anything else. Again, if you want to call some more attention to it, get a bunch of movement, put some comments down there and all the issues in the comment section down below of all the issues you're having. It's the only thing I can say that maybe we can get some attention to it, because eBay will have a problem with my title, I will almost guarantee you, because it again, that's how I feel. I'm allowed to give my opinion on that, but I feel like I'm being forced to give away free labor to help eBay, and I don't get a dime out of it. And that's not right. That's again, we're probably going to not list another record on the platform ever again. If that's the case, if this is the route, and I said this a month or 2 ago, if that's the route they're doing, I'll just stick to the other platforms where I can instantly list a record with no hassle. I would rather be able to list 4 times as many records or 3 times as many records and get maybe 10% less or 15% less for them. But I'll get so many more up on Discogs or even Amazon. I shouldn't be able to get more records up on Amazon than on eBay in the same time frame. It shouldn't work that way. It should be easier on eBay. But it's not. It wasn't too bad before, but now it's far worse. Like having to, the sheet music one gets me too. I have to put that it's a sheet in the sheet music section. It says sheet music in the title. I'm in a sheet music section, but one of the item specifics is for a sheet. And then they want to know the type of music. Then they want to know the specific instruments and all these. I don't know any of that myself. I don't know how to read music. I shouldn't have to. I'm not an expert in these types of items. I'm an expert in pricing them. And that's all that matters to me. I don't care who the performer's name is. I just need to know that that performer sells, this sheet music is worth something, and end of story. I'm not a historian trying to preserve the sheet music. I'm trying to make a profit off of it. You know, none of that other stuff matters to me. It shouldn't have to matter. Anybody buying the sheet music should be able to understand what they want or what they don't want. It's a sheet music. It's in the sheet music section. The title says sheet music. Now I got to put a sub thing for sheet music for item specifics. Then they want to know the instrument and ensemble, all these other things that it's unknown information to probably 90% of the people who sell sheet music. And even the people who have bought the sheet music, I don't get those questions ever. I've never had, what instrument's it for? What genre is it? Is this jazz? I've never had anybody ask any of those questions. If somebody's buying a 1910 large format sheet music that says Foxtrot, they know it's jazz. Or they want that song, or they know the writer, they know the performer, or it pictures the singer on the front performing the song that this writer wrote. Those are the reasons they're buying it. They don't care that it's G flute music from, I don't know. I'm not even getting to that because it's irrelevant information to sell a piece of sheet music. I can list it on Etsy in seconds. I can list it on Amazon in seconds. Wherever I go, I can list it without any of that hassle. Why on earth would they make it harder? Why on earth would they put so many confusing things in? Why on earth would they make you put it in, have it changed a week later, and then require you to do it again? They're forcing us to do labor. They're forcing us to give away our time for free. Nobody's going to get compensation for this. Even when they mess up, they're not required to give us anything. So when they lost like 100 million, I don't remember. It was so many photos, some massive amount, millions and millions, tens of millions of photos from tens of millions of sellers. All they did, I think, was give us like 500 free listings. And you had 3 days to use them. I don't know anybody out there who could list 500 items in 3 days. I couldn't do it unless I had a staff in here. I'm talking about individuals. It affected individuals, but 500 listings. What are you going to do with that? Maybe a month, maybe. You know, but 3 days, that's crazy. It was totally like a slap on the wrist for everybody who had that issue happen to them. I still have images. What was this, 2 years ago? I still have images missing. It still wasn't worth going in and trying to weed them out and using eBay's awful structure of how to fix them. That was an IT issue. You know, I know what happened. I can see it. It's very obvious by how it happened, by what disappeared and what stayed. We know how eBay, at least I can say I know how eBay structured their database at that point because of that. I know where they store things versus what's tied to the main structure of the listing. Your photo, one photo is always tied to the main structure, as is the title, as is the price. The other photos are stored somewhere else. That's why they disappeared, because they weren't tied with your listing itself. So that's probably a bad structure to begin with. So that wouldn't have happened if that wasn't the case. The minute the item's relisted, what happened is the item number, the link to it changed. It had a whole new number. The numbers didn't sync up. They didn't tie up, so they could never again give us our photos back. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm going to let it go in just a few minutes here. Unknown, yep, Julie. Unknown is one you're going to see a lot. That's, again, I could see them again telling us we need to put something in. You don't use unknown. They won't want NA and all this stuff when they realize that 60% of some categories, the item specific is only NAs. You know, that doesn't do any good. It doesn't help anybody. Linda Wyatt, do we have to do the required specifics? Yes, 100%. If so, will NA work on some of the specifics? Some of them, yes. If it says required, if you don't do them, when they go to relist at the end of the 30 days, it's not going to relist. Or if it does relist, they won't show them. So you either do it or you don't have your items up there. So, you know, I know as they're doing things, people quit doing it because they don't want to mess with this. We've been using NA just like that. Yeah, it depends. Some of them you can't use that on, too. Welcome, Butterfly Hustles. eBay is losing business hand over fist. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I use Discogs. It is great. Gloria Van Tassel. Discogs is easy. It's just like if you got a bar scanner and you're selling NOS on Amazon, I just click a button on my scanner. It scans the UPC code in the back of the NOS box. and then I can just add quantity and list it from there. It's nothing to it. It's insane. HIP is smaller than eBay, and HIP has a better listing structure than eBay does. Now, eBay stole, in my opinion, stole the thought and process of doing that from a smaller platform like HIP. You know, I don't see eBay being the innovator. If they were the innovator, they would have done it already. They wouldn't be waiting for a specific comic only or stamp only or postcard only site to do it, and then, oh, well, look what they're doing. You know, just like they're mimicking Amazon in so many ways. Let's see where we at. If it keeps making things difficult, I'll list more on Mercari. Not as many eyeballs, but listing is ridiculously simple to the point of some listings looking like obscure gibberish. Yep. Josh, it is part of the AI roll-up. AI is not going to... Joe Schmo on a record title and an item specific isn't going to do anything for an AI. It means absolutely nothing. AI can do it from the title. AI can figure whatever you put in that one sentence on your title section, that's all AI needs. They don't need the other. The other is for sorting, for data information capturing, and that's about it. And it makes no sense on like 90% of the ones in collectibles. It makes no sense whatsoever. It doesn't mean anything. It's useless information. It won't be relevant to the fact. They'll get some data out of it, but it won't be useful because the data, knowing whether a postcard's used or not used, it's going to be irrelevant. It means nothing. I've sold postcards for 30 years. It means nothing. You can ask any postcard guy out there. If there's used and unused versions of the postcard, they're going to buy them either way. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. They're not looking for that. Maybe 1 out of 1,000,000 people, maybe, but it's pointless. It's a waste of time, money, space on a database, more things that can mess up, more coding that wasn't needed, and it's coding that's been injected into it. So it's not like it was specifically written this way from the start. This is all like coding that's intermingled with stuff that's already there. So there's easier chances on messing up. If you're just implanting a section of coding, you cut and paste it from somewhere else, and you're going to put it in here so you've got another aspect that'll be done, there could be issues with it. That's why it doesn't always work right, because it wasn't written to be that way in the first place. You know, you're kind of like, it's like patchwork. It's like patching up a hole in a pair of jeans. You can see it. It's not right. It's not normal. It can fray. There's other issues wherever that patch is. It's the same thing when you just throw a little patch on there. That's why patches keep happening and stuff. That's why there's updates to Microsoft, because they keep finding this or they want to improve that and stuff like that. But it doesn't. That's why they roll out a new version as well too. You've got to, the whole structure has to be the same. And eBay's old structure and their new, it's just a bad combination in my book. I only have 300 items and 290 need specifics. See, again, it's a lot of work, and if you're not getting money out of it, you're just trying to get your bills paid, and you're trying to get as much stuff up as you can, so you can have as much money coming in as you can. The idea that you're going to now have to spend twice as much time, not only to fix listings that took you weeks to get up, but also any listing going forward is going to take you more time to figure out what these listings, what the questions even mean. That so many of them have no meaning whatsoever to the topic at hand. The imprint or a CD insert on a 45 record means nothing. It's useless again. And some of the toy ones, oh my God, I don't even want to go to some of the toy ones I've seen. Monroe, same thing on the records, and takes too much time, makes it no longer worth it, especially for any records sellable for $20 or less. So now they're telling us they're going to speed up your ability to list 99-cent cards, but they're going to make it harder to list $20 and $30 records. Come on, I mean, that's crazy. And even if they get this information, they don't have the technology, the built-ins or anything else like that either to link it together. So if I took a picture of the record, they're not going to be able to pull that information out. It's just not going to happen. They're years away from anything like that. Josh Gall, 2,900 items to fix up here. Again, I've already done probably 10,000 maybe, because we had thousands before on some of the other ones. NA was a lot of them. Or for, what was it, for the artist ones, we started using the word mixed. If it says artist, I put the word mixed. So if it wants like the Rolling Stones again, I'm going to put the word mixed in there is what I'm going to do. Let them worry about it because they'll want to look. They'll want to look if it just says mixed. They won't know who it is, so they'll have to look. Julia, what all platforms are you on? Well, I regularly do HIP. I'm on Del Camp, which is a stamp. We're on Walmart, Amazon, Etsy, Discogs, and I've got a few others that I don't go too much into. I do sell some things with direct drop links, like on the PayPal button. I do sell, I do ghostwrite for a couple places, and I do drop links for there. I do sell items on other platforms. I do have a couple accounts on eBay, a couple accounts on some other platforms as well under different names, and we sell different things on that. I do NOS, I do RA, I retail arbitrage. I do vintage, I do new. The only thing I don't mess with pretty much are clothing at all. I do buy leather coats that fit me, vintage leather. I do collect vintage leather. I've got like 65 or so leather coats. All vintage or something unique. That's my thing. It's about the only thing. I love leather coats. I put a video together once before, but maybe I'll have to do another one and just show some of the leather styles. I got like punk from the 80s. I've got jackets from every decade all the way down to the 40s. I had a 30s riding jacket, but I ended up selling that for like $1,000 because it had too heavy of a gasoline smell on it. But I sold it to a gentleman who worked at a museum, and he wore it to work all the time after that. He was ecstatic. He spent $1,000+ on this thing too. I only spent $40 on it, so I wasn't too upset about it. Let's put it this way: any platform that's not going to cost you any money up front, I would recommend at least checking out. Like direct transfer. Like I tried out Bonanza, no traffic. I tried out HIP, and I've always had traffic. It's not going to be steady for folks who don't have a bunch of items. Again, there's other platforms that are going to be adding items too. So things are going to change is what I see. That's why I say we're at a tipping point now. I've talked to other platforms. I've talked to people who do other things besides just eBay, and between the eBay conversations and the other platforms seem to be more intelligently making better decisions that are, again, I've been given some revenue numbers from some other platforms, from people who run those platforms, and they're seeing a huge increase versus eBay. They're using it smartly. They're using it wisely. They're investigating and looking at it before they jump into something. They're not just, we want item specifics tomorrow, let's start doing this. We can try and capture information like Amazon. That's all eBay did. I can't see it any other structure here. So anyway, it's crazy, as we know. What category is that mainly? Let's see here. I sell vintage lingerie, and it's ridiculous because today's sizes are different. Yes. Just like European sizes and Asian sizes. They're different. There's just a different structure on it. With vintage lingerie, you got to take measurements. You have to physically take measurements, and that's another reason. We've sold some before. Don't get me wrong. I don't have any problem selling anything as long as it's legal, and I'm not selling it to someone who's not old enough to have it. That's all I worry about. Let's see here. Carl, what are your thoughts on bulk editing item specific to see item listing title? Most of them won't let you do that. Yeah, as I said, I put mixed for an artist. If I'm listing a record and it's requiring me to put the record name, even if it's an easy cut and paste, I'm just going to put the word mixed. That's what I decided I was going to do. Maybe they'll ding me. Who knows? At this point, though, either that or I'll just take the items down. I got the listings in InkFrog. I own the listings. So even if eBay pulls all those listings, I can just put them somewhere else. So I'm not going to cry about spilled milk. It'll just mean that instead of just being less than half of my revenue, it's going to trickle down maybe to 40% of my revenue is now coming from eBay. That money, that other 60%, will be going somewhere else. That's not my fault. I didn't intentionally want to do that. I'm going where the revenue is. Your business, I don't care what you think about eBay. If you want you to be successful, your own business, your own personal experience as a seller to be successful, you go where the money is. You don't go to stick to eBay even if it's not doing good for you, or Amazon, or wherever it is, whatever platform. I don't care who it is. We're not talking about eBay now. We're talking about what you do. You look at where your revenue comes from. If I'm making $20 more for every 70 I sell on Amazon, where am I going to list them at? Why would I list them on eBay and make $20 less every time I sell them? Maybe I'll get a few more views and maybe an extra record sold or something, but I'm selling less records on Amazon, but I'm making more money on the records. So, who cares? At the end of the day, the increase in the amount of money I'm making on Amazon items versus what I'm making on eBay, I'm coming out ahead on Amazon. Even if it's only 10%, even if it's only 5%. So I've sat there, I've figured out which sites do better on us. So if at this point, my labor time isn't worth it anymore to list a lot of the records that I can do. Like, here's an example. A $10 record on eBay, if it takes you 5 minutes to list a $10 record on eBay, it's not worth it for my time anymore. I can just drop it on Discogs, I'll save the time, and I'll sell for $8.99. So I lost $1 there, but I saved $2 in list time, or whatever it equates out to. That's the point. I can't list as many on eBay when they do that. I'm stifled. I've made a big thing about switching to items that take me less time to list. I gave up clothing. What happened? The minute we gave up clothing and stopped worrying about any clothing at all, my revenue shot up like a rocket. Because I could list so much more of it. I had more space. I had no consideration. I didn't have any dealings that didn't fit. I didn't have to worry about that 10-15% returns. I didn't have to spend any extra time on any of that extra stuff. I didn't have to spend the list time. I wrapped every piece of clothing separately. Didn't have to do any of that. Everyone was labeled and numbered. They were all cleaned. You had to wash. All that stuff is gone. And if it means that I'm going to dump records, I'll dump records off of eBay if that's what it means. Again, this is about your revenue and my revenue. eBay's not protecting our revenue. They're costing us revenue. Again, the topic, the title, I'm required to work for eBay for free, basically. I spent 200 and some odd bucks, and I made a couple $100 less than the items that I didn't change. That's like that's 40 hours at $10 an hour of someone's pay that I gave to eBay. They're the ones who got the results out of it. I didn't get anything out of it. Had I listed it and known it from the start, it's a different story. If I know that I have to do all that when I'm going to list the item, I understand that. That's my problem. If I do that and go ahead and take it upon myself to put that information in, that's my problem. I had the opportunity. I took the choice to do that. But for items that I've had up for 5 years to now be required to spend 4 minutes of listing, 2 minutes of listing, figuring out what they need, even if I'm trying to do it in bulk, that's not justified. This is retroactive. That's like if you broke a law 2 years ago and today they decided that's going to be let's say you did something 2 years ago. There was no law 2 years ago. Well, today they decided to say that was illegal what you did 2 years ago. So now you're going to be in trouble for something you did 2 years ago. That's the same thing eBay's doing to us, requiring people with all these listings, 2,900 listings. The same basic thing they're doing to us. They're retroactively punishing us or forcing us to do extra labor all at once as well. And again, I wouldn't want to do any of these changes ahead of time until they're required because they keep changing. They'll disappear on you. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, who knows how many people in here who are going to tell you that exact same thing. Their stuff disappears after they put them in. I've seen it in person. The eBay can't tell me it's not happening. I saw it. I'm not blind. Well, I've got vision issues, but I'm not blind. I can see. I can read English very well. I know what I see and what I don't see. I've got screenshots of some of it even. So, it's crazy. Again, this is a money situation. If it means that I don't list another record ever on the platform, that's fine with me. I will just list more of them somewhere else in the same amount of time it took me to list them on eBay. And so I'll be compensated for the time. A high dollar record on eBay will do fairly well on Discog because it's rare no matter where it's listed at. End of story. Same with Amazon. If I list a $5,000 45 on Amazon, I'm probably going to sell it pretty quickly for $4,000. Depends on the record, of course, but we're going to let it go at that. I know I'm rambling on here. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. I got 364 people in-house right this second now on the show. So if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. I can tell you right now, just by looking at how many people are on, how many people have been on, the amount of thumbs up, that this topic is bothersome to a lot of people. Again, this isn't... I would love for eBay to say, yeah, we made a mistake. This is stupid. Let's let you get your stuff up quick. That would be the best result from this. But in the entire time, 25 years plus, I have been on eBay. There's only one time that I can even remotely possibly think that eBay listened to us, and that's when it was over the sales, not being able to put your item on sale for a certain length of time after it was first listed. That's the only time I can think of that they about faced on something. It's the only time I can think of right now. So I don't think they're going to change this, but it just means there's going to be less of certain items on the platform. Of course, we'll all be seeing more adult items on the regular platform because of what they're doing after June, but that's what they want, apparently. If eBay policed and took down the stuff when they were reported, everything would be fine. But they don't do that. We know that. Probably everybody out there is going to get dinged for something at some point, and you're going to see that same item being sold by people at the very same time. You're going to report it to them on the phone. Hey, this person's selling the same thing. And weeks later, you're still going to see that same thing up, but not yours. And I've seen it personally. I reported items when they took some of mine down and said, these are up right this second. He said he was going to report them. Weeks later, even still now to this day, they're still up. So why was mine wrong? So there's no universal accepted way to police eBay. It's different by whoever's looking at the site, by whoever happens to report something. So I'm not going to trust that. You're going to see more adult material on the platform. I can tell you for sure. That would be my honest opinion of it. Because people are going to want to be able to list some of that anyway. They're going to want to recoup some of the money. A lot of people have invested in this. If you're an NOS wholesale seller of adult material on adults only section, a lot of that merchandise you had to buy up front. And if you were told that they were going to be bringing those items back in, you may have invested tens of thousands of dollars a week before, a month before eBay announced that they weren't going to allow you to sell those anymore. You can't return adult items on those types of purchases. And again, you can't just go out and sell them on your own. You can't create your own platform. You can't compete with some of the other sites. You can't do it on your own like that. It doesn't work that way. Just like people saying we should create our own site. Our best option is for one of the sites out there that's smaller now to take up the slack and keep pegging away at eBay step by step, and for one of those sites to develop into a bigger site that doesn't have all the archaic options, doesn't force people to take 3 times as long as it used to just a few days ago to list items. That's what's going to happen. That's the only thing that's going to change this, because I don't see eBay going the route. If eBay is sold and that's what they're doing, that may be a different story. Maybe it'll be sold to somebody who actually has a brain and isn't worrying about lining their pockets with, stock buybacks. I would never do a stock buyback. I would always invest it back into the company to make the company the biggest, the strongest, the best company out there, so no one would touch it. Wouldn't give Amazon a chance. If they did that from day one, Amazon would have never been able to creep into their territory to begin with. They would have still been number 1 like they used to be, instead of number 3. eBay is number 3. It's Amazon, Shopify, and then eBay. So in the last couple of years, eBay has lost their spot as well. So they've lost it to Amazon first. Now they've lost it to Shopify. Who's going to be the third spot in a year or two? eBay is going to be dropped down to number 4 if it keeps going like this at some point, would be my guess. But anyway, we're going to leave it off at that. I'm not trying to go on and on, but I want the site to be successful. I don't like seeing my revenue go down and down on the platform. But again, I'm making it somewhere else. But I have a fond affiliation and a memory. That's where I started at. eBay was the start. eBay has always saved us back in the day when we needed money. It's always made our bills. It's always been able to help us. But these days, it's not. Yeah, we make decent money. I can't complain about the money, but I don't sell a lot of stuff on the site anymore. So, if it was one site, it would be easier for everybody, of course. But, Put your wings out there. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't rely on eBay for everything, because you can sell stuff on other platforms for more money, less hassle, is my take on it. Don't give up on eBay. Maybe they'll grow a brain. Maybe they'll go to the land of Oz, and maybe they'll actually ask for a brain or somebody who can make decisions that make sense monetarily wise. Again, eBay isn't a moral company, in my opinion. They wouldn't have had the head of global security for the entire company doing what they did and attacking people. There wouldn't be six high-level execs tied up in federal charges over attacking a couple who were saying truthful things about what eBay was doing. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. And I seriously do hope that people will leave comments about what item-specific issues you're having down in the comments section. The more people see this video, the more people that comment on it, the more chance it has of maybe shaking some information up out of eBay. My goal isn't to make eBay worse. My goal is to make eBay better so we can do better on it. Everybody does better if they fix stuff like this, if they don't do stupid decisions. They're going to do them either way, but hopefully they can rewrite this one and fix the issues, but I don't have a lot of faith in them at all. I have no faith in the guy running it. But anyway, I thank you all for coming on, and I hope you all have a good evening.